Hello, welcome back on how to create a curved truss in Comosys. This is actually part 4, and today I want to show you how we can create a connection between the curved truss and our column. If I turn this closely here, you can see at this end plate we still don't have a connection between this top chord and this end plate, and the same applies to the end plate and the column. Now what we want to do today is how we can create a connection between this plate and the top chord and the bottom chord, and how uh, to connect them, or to create a bolt connection between the end plate that has been attached to curved truss getting connected to our column. Now, again, if I bring it closer, you can see I have the points in place. These points just shows the location of the bolts, where I'll be able to place the bolts. And first of all, let me just check the distances from center to center of that bolt from here to here. That is 83.125, and we are going to apply the same thing. Now, the quicker one we want to do, first of all, we want to create the bolt now. And to create the bolts will come to steel here. Under steel, we will be able to get the tool for creating the bolts. So under bolt, we have a drop down arrow where we have some 3 options of how to create the bolts. Let's just go with the first one. And now, the moment you invoke the bolt command, we'll be able to see bolt group, and we want to bolt this to this. We want to bolt the column and the end plate here. So if I right click to make the command active, and I'll be able to snap on the points I had created. So if you're keen enough, you'll be able to see I can spot my first point and click on it, and zoom closer and spot my second point right there. So you can see the moment I click on that, you can see the information here. The given bolt X cannot be on the same direction with that VZ. I'll click OK. Then what I'm going to do next, I'm going to right click and click interrupt. And the reason why it's giving us that information is because our XYZ axis is not in the right position. So we are going to shift or place our XYZ axis in the best position, so that we'll be able to place our bolts accurately without a headache. Now I'll come to view here. Now under view, I'm going to pick on more options here. This drop down arrow here, if I click on that drop down arrow and pick to surface. You have a variety of options here, but let's pick on the surface. So I'll place my XYZ plane on that surface there. So once I've placed there, I'll go back to that tool of bolt creation, then invoke that command. So I'll come back to steel here and pick on the bolt. Just click on the bolt and pick the parts you want to weld together, or you want to bolt together, not to weld. I'll pick on that on the column and end plate here. Then I right click to make the command active. Now I zoom closer to the points I had created before, then I snap on that spot and snap on this particular spot. So you can see our bolts have been created. So the reason why we were getting that information, or reason why our approach was being rejected, is because our XYZ plane was in the wrong place. Now, if I select the bolt and press letter M and enter on my keyboard, I'll be able to get the bolt dialog box, where I'll be able to customize my settings so that I match this center distance of points I had created before. Now, if I come to positions here, this is where we'll feed in the measurements we've created on these points. So let me first of all confirm the center to center distance of these points. Now let me first of all deselect that bolt. Then by clicking on empty screen, then I'll right click and come to measure distance. And let me just confirm that the center to the center of the bolt, you can see is 83.125. And also let's confirm this from this center to that center. Let me just right click and come to measure distance. I'll confirm this from here to here. That is 78.55. Correct. Now let me select the bolts once again and press letter M and enter on my keyboard, then come to positions here. So if I come to positions here, I'll be able to feed in here 83.125. So I'll just type 83.125 on that end. So how many do we need? How many bolts we need? We need approximately 14. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we need approximately 14. Let me add that there. And if I go ahead and click apply, I'll be able to see I have my bolts in place. And if we confirm that by counting for confirm 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, approximately 14, because by default always have one bolt as a default number. So you add the rest on the default number. So to make it 15. Now, on the other side, we don't have bolts, so we have to add the bolts on the other side of our column. Now, once I've selected the bolts, I'll just go ahead and type letter M and enter on my keyboard and enter the distance we found here. The distance we found from here to here was, let me just confirm that once again and come to measure, then snap on that spot and snap on that spot. You can see we don't just mouse over the point and you get the exact distance. So this is 78.55. So we'll enter the same distance by selecting that bolt and type letter M on the keyboard, then then press enter. So we'll come to positions tab here, then come to Y position. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on the next to that zero, absolute zero, then create a space, then type 78.55. So once we've done so, we'll go ahead and click apply. So if we click apply, you can see where the bolts are being placed, and that is the wrong position. We don't intend to place our bolts on that position. So I'll just type letter M once again and type enter, then come back to bolt position tab here and prefix this distance by a negative sign so that it can move on the other side of X. You can see where our arrow pointing. The red one is X-axis and the green one is Y-axis. So on the side of the X-axis, I'm going to prefix that with a negative sign. So I'll go ahead and click apply. So if I click apply, I'll be able to see the bolts have gone to this particular end. So that is done. So this end plate has been bolted to this column. Now, we have another connection that we need to create, or to create, So we have to create a connection between this end plate and the top chord of our curved truss. You can see there's no connection at all, just a gap in between. So how do you create that? To create the connection in between these two profiles, I'll come to edit. So under edit, I'll come to cut. I'll click on the drop down arrow under cut and click fitting. So under fitting, the moment I click on fitting, you can see at the bottom end here, you can see select object to be cut. I select this object and select the surface. I'll select the surface of this particular plate. And if I select that, you can see a connection has been created. That top chord has been trimmed and shaped to fit on the surface of this particular plate. So if I click the other end also, if I select on that, then select the surface where I want that member to be fitted on, I'll click on that surface and you can see that has been created. If I right click and come to interrupt, you'll be able to see I have that already in place. And another thing, it has been just fitted but not welded on that section. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a weld between the plate and these two members forming a top chord of our curved truss. Now, if I come to weld, if I come to steel here and come to weld auto, I click on that drop down arrow and check the two options available. I'll pick the first one. Now, the moment I pick the first one, can read at the bottom end here, select a plate or profile to be welded. I want to weld this member, and I want to weld it here at this edge here. So I'll just point at that edge there and click OK. So you can see a welding has been created. So I'll select the next member, then point at the point I want to weld it. I want to weld it to. I'll select on that spot and the welding has been created. You can see that welding. And to confirm that, I'll select that member and right click and come to select assembly. You can see the bolts are getting selected, which means this is full assembly and this will be carried to site as it is. So if I click on empty screen there, you can see that get deselected. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing this far end here and select my point of interest, then right click and hold and turn my mouse like that. And since on this side I had already created a fitting setting. So what I'm going to do here just to create a weld here. You can see I had already fitted this to the end plate. Now I'll come back to steel and come to weld auto, then click on that drop down arrow and to see if we have some options available to weld. So we have multiple object welding and we have two object welding. I pick on the two object welding option. Then I want to select the part, the plate or the profile I want to weld. I want to weld this member against that. And I want to weld this member against that member. So you can see the welding has been created. And if I want to confirm my assembly, I'll just select one member, then right click and come to select assembly. And you can see everything has been selected. So let's go the other end. We assume the bottom end will be done, the approach is just the same. The bottom chord will be done the same, the same approach will apply to the bottom chord. So let me just select select on that, select the point of my point of interest. My point of interest is this point. I'll left click, then go to my right button and click and hold and move my mouse like that. I'll be able to rotate that. Now I want to mirror these bolts at the other end. So once I've selected this bolt like that, I'll be able to right click and go to mirror. And I can't invoke that mirror command because my XYZ plane is not on global position. So I'll come back to view here and shift back my XYZ plane to global position. So I'll just select go to global. Now, once I've confirmed that is active, I'll select the bolts here, then right click and come to copy spatial and pick mirror. So once I'm in mirror, I'll come here and define my mirror line. I'll select on that spot and select on that spot. And this is my mirror line. The reason why I'm placing my mirror line on that spot is because this is my center line between this column and this column, and I want to transfer this bolt to this far end of my truss. And I'll come to Options tab here and click Run. So if I click Run button there, I'll be able to transfer those bolts to this far end. And if I select on that point and try to turn this round, I'll be able to see I have my bolt on this particular end. And that's how you can mirror and create bolts connection between these particular curved truss. Now, the next thing we want to do, we want to create more stiffeners. The column stiffeners so that we don't strain this particular column at this joint here. Now I'll come to steel and come to a plate, and I want to create a stiffeners, plate stiffening or stiffening plates. And I'll just use the profile here, these edges of my column to place my stiffener. Now if I double click on this member, you can see this is way too big. This is way too big. The thickness of this particular plate is too big. Though 10 millimeters is okay, and also I've just confirmed something. I want to just go back and correct that. If I double click on this bolt, you can see this is M20 and the M20 is way too big, and I'll change that to M2, M16, or you can just leave it to M20 though. I'll close that and come back to my plate. Now I'll double click on this plate to shift it slightly below and flash it with the top end of this particular column. How do you do that? I'll come to general definitions, detailing definitions, and that will not work for us. I'll select on it once again, double click, or press letter M and enter. I'll be able to define this properly. Now, if we come to under geometry, position in depth, we'll shift this slightly below. We want this edge to flash at the top end of this particular flange. I'll come to this position in depth and click behind and click apply and give it an OK, and it has moved to the bottom end. So this flashes like this. Now, to avoid any water trappings on top here or any stagnant water that in case it rains, we don't need, we want water. When water pours on top of this plate, you'll find a way of how they can get their way down to any drainage defined below this structure. Now, if I select on this member, then click on at the corner there of this particular plate. I'll select on that, then come to this plate dialog box, customization, and click on chamfer. If I click on chamfer there, I'll feed in my measurements for chamfer. Though we have chamfer types here, we have all these types of chamfer. You pick the best one for you, and I've picked type 1 and I've defined the measurements for my chamfer. So I'll just go ahead and click apply. And if you take a look closer, you will see I have my chamfer already in place. If you just zoom closer, you'll be able to see I have my chamfer in place. So if I turn that round like that, you can see I have my chamfer in place right there. I'll apply the same this end. If I click on that and come to chamfer and apply chamfer on that end, I'll click on empty screen, and I want to mirror this the other end. And remember, we have to change our XYZ planes in order to mirror this the other end. So I'll select this member, then right click. First of all, we have to try if we can apply the same tool with our XYZ plane at global position. So let me just come to copy spatial here and pick on mirror, and snap on that spot right there, and snap on this particular end just to define our mirror line, and snap on that spot. So you can see I have my mirror line in this position. So if I come to options tab and click mirror, I'll be able to see my mirror working on the other end. So we'll retain it on that position. So I'll select this and select that, then right click and come to copy. So once I've copied that, I'll move all the way and snap it, copy it from that position and move all the way to the other end, similar position, so that I can place it there on this far end here. So let me just snap on that position and see if they can fit well. There we are. I'll right click and just retain the selection. Don't deselect that, because I want to populate. I want that whatever I do this side will apply on the other side too. So I'll press Control and select this plate and select on that plate. Then I'll right click and come to spatial copy here and come to array. So under array, I want to copy this. I want to populate this stiffeners all the way to this far end of our column, so that we don't strain this connection so much. Then under z-axis, I'll just get rid of that measurement, and I need around 3 stiffeners, though we have one in place that will make them 4. So in this approach, I'll add 3, and I'll prefix this 435 by a negative sign, because we're moving against the z-axis. So if click OK or copy, please remember that the same applies, because this side our selection is still active. I've selected this stiffener and this stiffener, so that when I apply this rule here, will apply on the other end. So if I come here and click copy, I'll be able to see everything has been placed both sides of our column. You can see that. So if I come here and turn this round and check the other end also, I'll be able to see that the same stiffeners have been applied on this far end also. So that's how you do that. And as I had told you, you have options of splitting these trials at the middle, which is dependent whether you are welding this on site or you're welding this on the workshop, then cutting it to the site. Whichever approach is best, you can do that. So let me just close that, because I've done my copying. So once you've done that, you're free now to populate this along the y-axis. Let's do that when we come back on the next presentation. This is Morris Dimba, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and let's meet then. Bye bye.